Hi, everyone, and Happy New Year. Well, 2025 is over. It was a hell of a year. I think it was like the longest 12 months ever.
I don't know. I think 2026 is
We're off to a good start. It is the morning of January 4th as we're recording this. So that means that we are now 4 days running where I've opened the news, my news app, looked at the headlines, closed my news app, and put my phone down.
yeah.
So But we're going to focus on 2025. This is a recap episode. Politically, the immigrant community, us personally, we have all kind of had a hell of a year. I think everybody had quite the 2025. I think you're right. 2026 is going to be a little bit of a strap in kind of year. But for this episode, we're going to be honest and vulnerable and I don't know, maybe have a little bit room to feel feelings. And we're just going to talk about our year. So, Stacey, you want to start? Tell us about your year.
Sure. So this past year was the year I became the sole income provider, which
Unexpectedly.
unexpectedly, um, shout out to corporations who just, shut down completely in the state to avoid regulations and high costs. So yes, I became the sole income provider, though I will say, the silver lining here is that I've gotten to spend a lot of time with my partner. We've never really gotten to spend this much time together since we got to know each other in college. Even during COVID, he was an essential worker. So
Oh, that's right.
he was working through COVID. So this has been interesting, we're really spending a lot of time together. It's funny, except the first 2 months of it, I was like, oh, this is so fun and so exciting. And then there was this moment where I was sitting at my computer trying to work and he came in here and I'm like, "You- yes.
What what you need?
um, so it's been good to be able to spend that much time together. The downsides of being the sole income provider, besides the fact that I'm the sole income provider, is we also now have to pay for self-employed health insurance,
Ooh.
um,
Yep.
which that experience in itself was so wild because first we're in Massachusetts, so we already have better health insurance than a lot of the country. So when we
A-
went to
And you're
the,
required to have health insurance,
we are required to have health
which
insurance.
I don't think is true for every state.
Yeah, and so we made too much money last year to actually qualify for Mass Health, which is the government assistance.
Wait, I'm sorry to interject. I just need to point out that you made too much money last year, which was based on a two-person household income, which is no longer true because only one of you is working, but they still use last year's income.
Right, and it's interesting 'cause it's at what point this year do we make less of that income to actually qualify for government assistance with our health insurance payments? It'll depend on how much my business makes, but and when my partner gets a job again. I was very anxious about the whole buying health insurance. It was, I've never really had to do it before. We've only ever done employee sponsored health insurance. And so the actual process is not horrible. It's not super bureaucratic. It's online. You just put in your providers, they give you which plans work. The actual process itself is pretty easy. What sucks is the options that they give you. So, we put in all our providers, and then our cheapest option was 600 something dollars a month. And I shit you not, it covered nothing. Every single appointment, every therapy appointment, every visit to your PCP counted towards your deductible. And I don't remember what the deductible was. It's eight, $9,000 single, 18,000 family. And
Right.
so we're like, okay, that's not going to work out because, we go to appointments. We go to appointments and I don't have an extra 20 grand lying around. Um, So we ended up going with the second cheapest health insurance plan, which was about $800 a month, and that covered all the preventative things. But if we do end up going to the hospital for anything, that's all gonna go towards our deductible, so nobody is allowed to get sick until, my partner gets a job again.
I I think that's that rule where it's like, if you have health insurance where you can't afford your deductible, you don't have health insurance.
It's wild.
If your deductible or copay is so expensive that you can't afford to get sick, then you don't have health insurance.
What's crazy is that after the shutdown, when the Democrats were trying to hold out, in theory, for better health insurance options, and then they gave up, our monthly premium is now almost $1,000. It's 900 something a month, which is I literally have to sign a client and do a client project every month just for health insurance.
I will never forgive the Democrats for caving for that because that was so vitally important and it ruined so many families' budgets. It was like it was already expensive and now you're talking about $1,000 a month
Which
for
is wild.
healthcare. And you're still saying, "We can't afford to get sick. We can't afford to get hospitalized. We can't afford to have an emergency. Good thing you don't have an appendix." This is kind of like, if you are a scientist and you get sent to, like, Antarctica to study there, they remove your wisdom teeth and your appendix before you go. I feel like you need to when you guys go to, Portugal, while you're there, Tom needs to get his appendix and his wisdom teeth removed. Just so you don't have an emergency while you're here.
One of the things that happened to me in 2025 was our fridge and dryer both shit the bed, and
I love it.
so, um, we very specifically looked for a local appliance store to not support Home Depot or Lowe's, and it was a really good experience. We went to a showroom, um, the salespeople were not, like, pushy, but it was just, like, much more pleasant than Home Depot
I
or
love
Lowe's, so,
that.
if you need a Boston-based appliance rec.
Why don't we just put them in the show notes?
Other thing that, um, started for me in 2025, but I think is going to be more of a 2026 project is I really started working on my book, which is I wanna s I've been, like, playing around with, like, what's the genre of this, but I think it's a narrative nonfiction. It's, like, part memoir, part, like, here's what's going on, kinda like this podcast, I guess, I would say, similar, vibes. But it's all about my work in the education system and why I left and some of the I've been having a lot of conversations with people, um, locally and not so locally too, about people's experiences, and I'm, like, seeing, like, all of these patterns and how what I experience, other people have experienced. So I'm really excited about this project. And I actually made some friends that are working on similar things when it comes to education. And now we have like a little accountability group. So I feel like it's going to actually get done in 2026, which is very exciting.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So that's yeah, I would
That's
say
so
that
exciting.
those are like my 2 big updates for 2025, and one of my focuses of 2025 was just trying to, like, be in person more and get to know people more and build more, like, human connections, and that's definitely something I wanna bring into 2026 too, of just, like, not being on social media so much and instead just, like, having actual conversations with people because I really think that there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I pass it on to you, Leslie, and your 2025 recap, I do have to mention that I got called for jury duty for the first time ever this year. Um, it was, I did not get chosen, unfortunately.
So what's really funny about that is I also got called for jury duty for the first time ever this year, and I feel like that's probably gonna make people so upset because that means I made it 41 years without being called for jury duty. Well, that's not true. I made it whatever, like, you can get called at 18. So I basically made it, like, over 2 decades without getting called for jury duty, but I think I will get called now every 3 years because
Well, what I learned, it's like it's random. So it's after you get called, you just get put back into this pool. So you could not get called again for 20 more years. But that's why some people get called like really often. They just like put your name back into the pool and then pick from the pool.
yeah, my husband gets called frequently. I did immediately get called, though. I got called, did it, and then, like, the next day, I got a thing in the mail that was like, "You've been called for jury duty," and I was like, "Oh, wait, I just did this."
I just visited a friend who actually did jury duty. She served on a jury. I think it was a slip and fall case that she was telling me that she did, but she said it was quite boring because it lasted over a week. And I'm
Oh.
like, I could see how that would be really boring. The case I got called in for, I got to the point where the judge asked me questions and then they didn't want me. So um, it was funny because they were like, don't take it personally. And I'm like, I'm kind of taking it a little bit personally.
I was there for mine would have been a murder trial.
What?
Yeah.
That would have
But
been
I didn't even get
interesting.
to that point because they called so many people. I literally just sat around for 8 hours, and it was so blissful because it was so quiet, and I have 2 small children. So I just spent 8 hours reading. I went, like, on a website and, like, picked out these glasses.
I did do a lot of work that
Yeah,
day.
I, like, did some work. I read a book. I was chilling. I was like, "I don't know why people stress out about this." I was like, "I don't know if I wanna get picked, but I am really enjoying my quiet." Nobody talked. People took naps. But
I
at,
love
like, 4 o'clock, I haven't gotten called in to get questions yet, and then they just like, "Okay, we have to let you go." But you did get called.
I got called and dismissed at about 1 PM, so it wasn't even the whole day. They were just like, "No, thank you." Her vibes, no.
I probably wouldn't have gotten picked because it was a murder trial, and we have people in the family who have we could probably say was an attempted murder.
Fair.
So, I think they would have just been like, "No, you're not allowed." Also, there was
Um,
a question pretty early on that was like, "Stand up if you find police trustworthy," and I was like, "Keep my ass planted on this chair." I was like, "Oh, I trust the bear more than the police."
let's move on to your 2025. What
I
happened?
had a doozy of a year.
You did.
I did. So, 2025 was my year of change. December 31st, 2024 was my last day of work in my corporate environment. I found out I was getting laid off, like, the week before my son was born, and I basically was like, "Gonna file that in the back of my mind, I can't deal with that." And they did keep me on for, like, a whole year after that as, like, "I'm getting laid off, I just don't know when." And then finally, the end of 2024, they were like, "You're done. You don't come back here in January." So, January, I was sort of, like, puttering around, kinda just, like, hanging out with my kids, sort of, like, just kind of enjoying having, like, a little break. End of January, early February, I was on your podcast, The Cozypreneur. And you were sort of like, "Yeah, you should start a business. We should start a podcast."
It's funny. I remember saying to you, like, don't stop applying to jobs. It's hard to start a business, but it's also really weird to be in this space where I feel like there's more security in business right now than in corporate jobs.
Yeah, and we could talk about that too, because ultimately what happened is I did take your advice. I started a business. I kept applying to jobs, and I'm now in a contract job that does not pay enough, and I still have to work my business. And I'm working like insane hours because I'm working full time at this contract job. I'm still doing my business. I'm still teaching swim. I'm still doing so um it's really a good motivator to be like, I'm gonna keep this business going. And what I'm finding as I was applying for jobs is nobody wants to hire a full-time worker anymore. I shouldn't say nobody, I'm sure there are, but it's for a lot less money. I will never make the salary I was making at my old job. Nobody was hiring at that. Everyone was hiring at less than half of what I was making, and I'm a person who I've 2 decades of experience under my belt. I have a master's degree. I have a lot of experience. It wasn't like I stumbled upon a great paying job. Like I started working at like I think my first job I was getting paid like, I don't know, 17, $18 an hour. It's literally like I moved up sort of slowly. Like I didn't just start making a ton of money. And I was looking at these jobs that I were full-time jobs that would be like what I was making halfway through my career, what I was making 10 years ago. And it's like, wow, jobs, they're really trying to screw us here. Um, if they were even full time, but most jobs that I was seeing were contract jobs, were contract positions, were temporary positions with this sort of vague promise that like maybe we'll hire you full time, maybe. So I think you're right. I think that there's this shift into there's a shift into hiring contractors. And having your own business really does bring a little bit of more control and security into it. So it is really nice to be like, this is my expertise. This is what I do. Um, and being able to really sell myself to somebody who needs that, as opposed to like spending, 6 hours a day on workday applications. If I never see another workday application, I will die happy. Workday is bane of my existence. Day is this like, do you know when people talk about applying for jobs and they're like, I uploaded my resume and now I have to type in all the fucking fields?
Mhm.
That's all Workday.
Mhm.
And then now Workday's using like, essentially, they're using like programming to be like, this resume is a 71% fit to that job. And then someone in HR is like, oh, I'm going to look at all of these resumes and none of these. So you do all this like maneuvering and like figuring out what are the magic words that I need to apply to my resume to make it more percentage wise. We're in this really, really, really bad place with hiring right now where HR is like, we're getting way too many resumes. And people are like, I have to apply to way too many jobs to get looked at. And what's happening is we've made this bad cycle where applicants feel like they have to use AI to get the right combination of like words in order to get past the AI or whatever programming to get like a good enough match for human eyes to get looked at. And then HR is like, we can't look at every application because we're getting so many applicants. But then, like, applicants are applying to so many jobs because they feel like it's a numbers game. I have to apply to so many jobs because if I don't, no one's going to look at my resume. So we're just in this really bad cycle right now. And it's
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
bad out
it
there.
needs to break. I don't know how, but it needs to break. And essentially, like, it's really hard it's almost impossible to get a job if you're just applying. You have to like know someone. And I'm sure there will be people who'll be like, but I applied for a job and I just got it. And it's like, great for you. But that's not the case for a lot of people.
Also, like, a lot of people are unemployed right now. The unemployment rate is very high.
I also heard that like there's been some research into that, and they're saying that they think that the unemployment that like I don't know. I have to find this, but basically like researchers are thinking that the unemployment numbers are like heavily underreported right now. And I actually do believe that.
I could see that.
Um, because you'll have people who like me, I've run out of like I can't use unemployment anymore. And it's like I would say I guess I'm underemployed maybe because like my business isn't making enough money on its own. I'm not making enough money at my contractor job. So I'm still trying to figure out how to make ends meet.
Are you underemployed or overemployed?
I'm underemployed payment-wise, overemployed time-wise, which is
Yeah.
not a good place to be, but, like, that is what it is, and it's just gonna be a rough year, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, you just sort of do what you have to. It's this what a first gen mentality. I'm
Well,
just gonna do what I have to do.
I mean, but that's the reality for a lot of people right now. It's like you're in survival mode. Like
Yeah.
it's everything's really expensive. You're working the same amount of hours. Your money doesn't go as far. It fucking sucks.
Oh, yeah. It does. But sort of going back to my 2025 recap, yeah, I think my business, it's funny because like, starting a business is really, really hard. Like, I don't wanna there's no sugarcoating that. It is hard. It's fun. It's, like, quite the adventure. I've met so many people who are, like, way smarter than me, who've just been so kind in giving me their time, their expertise, and their energy, um, and who've really, really helped me, like, think through what I'm doing. You're one of those people. If anyone out here gets my company newsletter and you're like, "Wow, this is really well written," it's because I write it and then immediately send it to my marketing team, which is Stacy Braga Copy. and and Stacy edits the copy of my newsletter and my LinkedIn articles, and then they actually come out sounding like me but better, which is great, which is what you're looking for. And it wasn't really until the end of the year that I started getting like real traction with my business. And I had like small projects here and there throughout the year, mainly people I knew being like, "Oh, hey, I know someone," or "Can you help me with this?" But it wasn't until like end of October, November, where people started to reach out to me. Finally, all these LinkedIn articles where people were like, "You really sound like you know what you're talking about." It was like, I do know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for a really long time. Um, and that was really exciting when you're like, "Oh, it's starting to really come to fruition, this idea
It
that I
does
had."
take a while, and that's what's hard. I talk about this a lot on the business podcast, Cozypreneur, when all of the messaging that you hear is business is so easy. And then you're like, why haven't I made money in 6 months? It actually does take a while. My business is turning 3 right now, this month in January.
Ooh.
And I think one of my favorite things is just the personal growth that has happened. Like, I feel like I've really learned to give zero fucks. And I think a lot of that has to do with my business being rejected multiple times, of having to continuously put yourself out there and step out of your comfort zone. Like, that's something that I didn't have while I was teaching. And that's why I can like come full circle and be like, I'm writing a book now. Fuck all those people that I was working with
Yeah.
before. But it's like I really had to develop that skill of like putting yourself out there and, like you said, going out on this big adventure and being okay with being like, you know what, fuck you guys. Like I'm gonna speak up and I'm gonna like follow my moral compass and I'm gonna say what I want to say and I'm not gonna worry about all of you.
There's a lot of discomfort in starting a business. There's a lot of being like, "I just don't know." Oh god, there's so much humbling yourself. I had this conversation with a woman I met at a networking event, and I approached her. I was like, "I think we should work together. You have the type of clients that I wanna have, and I think I can offer something to your clients." And first meeting, we start talking, and she was like, "You're not ready for my clients." She said it in the nicest possible way, but I was like, I just had this moment of like, "Oh, damn." Um, that hurt my feelings. And she was like, "I think that you need bigger clients than mine." And she was like, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to think about niching down. Who you actually want to provide for." She ended up spending like 45 minutes basically coaching me through how to niche down, which is what she does for her paying clients,
That's
but did
nice.
it in like this wonderfully nice way that was like, I think, business changing for me. Maybe it was like the way she spoke to me plus where I was in my business, and sort of like maybe the roads just sort of met in the right time and place. And I was like, "Oh shit, I know what I want to do. I know how I want to move forward now." And it was, like, after that, like, my messaging started getting more succinct, and that's when I started getting traction in my business, and it was like, "Damn, that's what I needed." I'm so unbelievably grateful for all, like, the people that have been supportive and kind. Another thing that I learned how to do is, edit podcasts.
Yes. If you feel like the podcast editing on this podcast is really great, it is all 100% Leslie.
Yes. I would leave out a tip jar if I could. I refuse to go back and listen to the first episode, but I have heard that first episode to, like, the end of season 1, there was a big difference in the editing, and I was like, "Oh, that's because I had to learn how to edit on the fly." Um, and, we'll continue to do so for some time. Speaking of the podcast, let's talk about the podcast. Because so we've basically done now, like, 1.5 seasons, let's call it 1.5 seasons, in 2025. What was your favorite episode of 2025, which would be, like, season 1 and everything we've recorded for season 2 so far?
I'd say probably the episode we did with Saul. If you haven't listened to it, Saul is Leslie's mother-in-law, and it's just somebody that I see at family events, and we chat at family events, but we never really, like, talk. And so doing that episode and just really getting to know her and her story, it was just very cool, and I learned so much about her, and I was like, "Wow, I knew she was cool, but she's really cool." So I think for me, that was my favorite episode to record.
Yeah, I actually think that might be our most listened to slash most downloaded episode. It was really good. And she's amazing. I've told her this. I Every time someone complains about their mother-in-law, I'm like, "It's not me. I have a great mother-in-law." I mean, case in point, months ago, I went to an event, and as when I was there, this person was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be in a drag show in December. There's a postcard about it on the table." And I was like, "Oh, cool, check it out." And I know Soledad likes drag shows, so I took a picture of it and I sent it to her, and I was like, "Hey, FYI, drag show in December." And she responds, "We should go together." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So she actually ended up getting the tickets for both of us, which was really nice. So a couple of weeks ago, we went to the Hanukings. And we actually didn't know anything about this, but it was actually the company is all Jewish drag company.
Wow.
Talk about niching down, right?
Seriously, that is quite niche.
I know, I was really funny because, like, when they said that, I was like, "Oh, wow, this is niching down. This is a good business." The show was incredible. We and it was the Hana Kings, and they had, it was like a show. It was 9 sets, like, 1 for each candle, and the host at the end came out dressed as the menorah.
Nice.
It was beautiful, it was amazing, we had a great time, like, we went out to dinner, and then we did the show, and I'm, like, still thinking about it days later. I'm gonna link the company in our show notes because they were so good. And if anyone gets an opportunity to catch any of their shows or see any of their performers, you should do it. And they had people come in from, like, Connecticut and New York, and it wasn't just Boston based, so they're big. It was so cool. And she's pretty amazing, and I have a full relationship with her outside of my relationship with my husband, which is pretty neat. I do love her, and I like that I can just talk to her. I don't think you can do that with every mother-in-law. I mean, I'm saying I don't think. I know you can't do that with every mother-in-law. I have people who, like, I definitely have friends complaining about their mother-in-laws being intrusive or kind of annoying, or they step on their toes, and it's like, I don't have that issue. I have, like, a great relationship with her, and I I adore her. So
What was, your favorite episode that we did?
I really did like that episode. for much the same reasons you did. I just really enjoyed hearing her stories. Um, but one of my favorite episodes was actually the one about the 43 first cousins, and it was just fun reminiscing, but what I really loved about it was the reaction from the cousins about it. I don't think I realized that the cousins were listening before that episode aired. And then all of a sudden we're getting all these messages where people were like, was that me you were talking about when you said da da da? Or like, oh, we have a group chat about this. Or like, hey, and it was just so funny. That's what started the like weekly when we release an episode. Very frequently, we'll get text messages from at least one cousin where they reference something they heard in the podcast and they'll ask us about it or they'll comment to us about it. And it's like, guys, can you comment on Spotify or Apple, please?
Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to our podcast.
Or like comment because that's Spotify and Apple know that other people are listening. I love that they're listening. I love that anybody listens. It's a great privilege. There are bajillions of podcasts. It's a great privilege that anyone listens. It feels so special. It feels so warm and fuzzy that our cousins listen. Like, it
It
feels so
does.
important that they listen.
I know.
I'm getting, like, teary-eyed.
And I'm very bad at keeping in touch with people, so I feel like this is a nice connection point.
Right. It's like, "Hey, guys, we are thinking about you a lot, even if we don't, like, reach out, because life is busy. Because you just heard about our 2025s, and you also had a I know everybody had crazy years because when we do touch base, everyone's like, "So listen to this madness that's happening." And we know, like, we know a lot of people had insane years. I'm, like, getting teary-eyed thinking about it now because I don't know. I don't know why. Thank you for your support.
Yes, we appreciate.
I, like, immediately need to change subjects or I'm just gonna
Okay.
fall, like, being too emotional. Can we talk about our guests? We had amazing guests in 2025.
Yeah, so we hit on Soledad. Who else stood out to you?
Um, I I wanna point out too that were really amazing for me, and it was Remy and Isaac because they're old friends of mine that I have known for, like, 2 decades, and they were so gracious in coming on, and it was so amazing to, like, connect with them in this different way and to hear their stories. I think they made great guests in general, and they were just fun.
It was
Uh,
fun catching up with them.
it was a really great time, and those are such good episodes, and they were so much fun to record, and I still keep in touch with both of them. Um, the Humio episode was unhinged. It was like he was, like, hungover, and he hadn't gotten enough sleep, but he had promised us that he would do an episode with us.
Sounds about like the whole visit.
It was, like, the entire visit, and I feel like I wanna be like, "You owe us a sober episode." 'Cause I do think he has, like, amazing stories. He's a super interesting guy. I think he was just, like, hungover and tired, but he was like, "No, I said I would do." Because we were like, "We don't have to do we could do this, like, when you're home." And he was like, "No, that I would do this." And we were like, "Alright."
I think one of my favorite things about him visiting was he came to music class with me and your kids, and the other moms were fawning over him. Like, they were like, "He's so handsome." We'll let you guys know where you can listen to our cousin live on stage when he
Yeah.
comes. We also had Kayla as a guest, and that I loved that we were so angry at the beginning of the episode, and she took us through some breathing exercises, and I was like, "Oh, this was, like, such a nice reminder of you can be angry and feel your feelings, but you also need to ground and take care of yourself and take that minute for yourself, and it's okay to step back." And I just, like, that's what I love about her. That's what her whole energy is.
I know. It was yeah, we had just come off of recording the "Why Is Ice Making Us So Angry" episode, and then we come into this one, and we were so fired up, and she was like, "Can we just take a minute to breathe? Is that okay?" And we were like, "I guess." And she was like, "Everybody's gonna close their eyes." And her voice and everything about her was so calming. So
Yeah. And
please.
then the only guest we haven't mentioned, and I will say this is the only guest that we didn't know beforehand. She actually reached out to us about being a guest.
I know, that
It
was
was
really cool.
We were like, "Oh my god, people are finding us." Like, we felt so honored. And it was Maria Timonina, who's, um, an actress and is first gen from Russia.
Yeah, and she was so cool, and she was so amazing. We are taking out for Portuguese pastries next time she's in the Boston area. We did promise her that. That was, like, so validating to she was just like we were like, "How did you find us?" She's like, "I was looking for this type of podcast. I really liked listening to you guys." And I was like, "Oh,
I
okay."
know.
Sure, and, just had the most fun talking to her. I've had, like, many lessons learned because I kind of was learning how to, like, edit a podcast on the fly, but also we've been working on where are we recording? We've been wanting to get in the same room and record together, but also sometimes our schedules don't allow for that. So we've been trying to figure that out. We've hit multiple tech issues over the time here, which I think is normal when you're trying to figure things out. The end of the year, like this has happened like 2 or 3 times now where we've recorded entire episodes that we can't use because of tech issues. We just have to scrap it, and then we're like, "Okay, we just, like, can't release an episode this week because we just don't have material for it. We don't have time to record and edit an episode." That sucks. And then the end of the year, we had 2 weeks where I couldn't talk.
Right.
I had, like, lost my voice, and I was like, "I can't talk." And then so we couldn't even record, and then we had, like then we did record. We finally got, like, record, and I was like my voice was a little husky, but it was okay, and tech issues. It was mic issues. We had mic issues, which we didn't know about until we were done fucking recording.
It was like a long episode too, it was over an hour. We're gonna re-record it.
No, we have to re-record it. It was so good. The episode was great. Then I was like, I'm just gonna spend a really long time editing this so that we can get what we need." I don't know, I probably spent like 30 minutes and I was like, "Nope, you cannot get what we need out of this." So we had to scrap it. And then it was getting close to the holiday and I was like, "We're taking a break for the rest of the year." It was just a lesson in things are just not going to go the way you need them to go every time. And that's okay.
Yeah, I think, like, as much as, like, we love the podcast and doing it, like, it's really hard to be super consistent all of the time, which is why we'll probably be releasing episodes every other week instead of every week due to Leslie working 60 hours a week and me trying to write a book. You know,
Ayush.
the usual.
Yeah, we've talked about this. Do we want to release every week? Absolutely. And I think it's just, setting realistic expectations. Um, I think every other week is probably more realistic. I think once things settle down a bit, we'll go back to a weekly podcast. Definitely subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't. That way you can get all the news if for some reason we can't do every 2 weeks. We'll still try to get some information out. Also get on our Instagram. We'll post things. We'll be posting clips and things like that on there. So another thing that we're working on is our YouTube channel. We have a couple of season 2 episodes on there. We're working on getting all the season 1 episodes on there. Those will just be audio. Um, and then season 2 will try to do video for most of the episodes, except where we had technical issues where the video didn't work because, hey, we're learning. I feel like they're gonna be someone's gonna be like, "Why don't you just hire someone to figure this out?" And it's like,
Did you listen to this episode?
go back. and listen to the recap of 2025 and listen
Also,
to
can I read this podcast pitch that I got? I shared
oh,
it with you. I got
yes,
so I get a lot of podcast pitches for my other podcast. I'm sure you get them for this podcast.
I have,
Uh,
yeah.
and so I got this podcast. I just investigated Cozypreneur podcast with Stacey Braga, and I'm stunned, borderline furious. Your podcast should be buried in comments. Instead, it's committing slow suicide. Here's what nobody tells you. YouTube's algorithm is bleeding you dry. People are binge watching your competitors, and you don't even show up on page 10. The kicker? A fix so obvious it hurts. Want me to just show you? Your next flood of viewers are one metadata fix away. They will just never discover you at this rate.
He said metadata, so he clearly knows what he's talking about.
You know, I was like, I don't know if they actually know what they're talking about, but because they put some corporate speak in there, I'm fully confident in hiring this person.
So when you read that to me, you were like, should I respond and ask him if he needs help with his copy? And I was like, for sure. But I wasn't kidding. I literally think you should respond and be like, hey, I know that aggressive marketing might work on a specific type of person, but it doesn't work on a lot of people. Do you need help with your copy? And then link your website.
I What's funny is I shared this in a group and people said they rolled their eyes so hard they pulled a muscle.
I s I mean, he would I'm assuming man. That person sounds really obnoxious to work with, so, like, don't do that, but, like, I think that it's because most of the people who have podcasts are probably men, and it probably works for them. Maybe.
So anyway, if you're listening to this and you are about to pitch us, that's what not to do.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Another thing I did wanna say is that we are always looking for guests because we want like, our experience, right? Our first gen experience is great and wonderful. I love chatting with my sister and in this, like, public way, um, and sharing our experience. But it's like, that's a very small part of a particular first gen experience. And so we want to get as much of the immigrant experience out there as we can. And to do that, we need guests. So if you are interested in being a guest, we'll put the guest form in our show notes. It's also on our website. And we are looking for first gen folks, but also if you have an organization that works with first gen, if you are an immigration lawyer, please fill out the form. Um, you know, anyone who has a wealth of knowledge of resources that wants to come on and talk about them, that would be really great too. One of the goals of our podcast is to really like humanize the immigrant experience. And I don't think that's what we started to do, but I think that's something that's really important to do in the current culture that we are living in the current political climate that we're in, and providing these very humanizing stories is really important. But I also think that another piece of it is providing resources, answering common questions, providing any information is also important. And then I think the third piece of that is when we do things like get really angry about things that we're hearing, it's probably really cathartic for people to hear, hey, I'm not the only one that feels this way.
Yeah. And then taking that anger and using it productively. How are you actually taking steps forward to advocate for your community? So that's something that I'm thinking about a lot as we move into this new year.
Yeah, because walking around with your passport as an American citizen to prove that you're an American citizen is not normal behavior, but it is something that lots of people have to do right now.
And on that sad note,
I know, I'm sorry I ended it that way.
you were like, we need guests. And then we're like, the world is ending.
I know! Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Oh, wait. No, we have one more thing to do. What's gonna make you unapologetically you in 2026?
I think I'm going to stick with my not giving a fuck and doing what I know is right and using my voice as a tool for change is my goal in 2026.
Well, that's good. I
You
look
know,
forward.
with writing the book,
Yeah,
it all goes together.
I look forward to reading your book. I think that's gonna be really good.
All right.
What's gonna make me unapologetically me in 2026? What are my goals? My goals is to survive the year, to be honest.
That's a
Um
good goal.
it is a good goal. My plan for the year is to really lean into the strengths that I know I have, the community that I have built, and the love of my friends and family. I'm going to have to push myself to really build my business so that I don't have to keep being in this place that I am right now where I'm like, oh, I have a contract job and I'm building a business and I'm teaching preschool swim. Although I probably will continue to teach preschool swim because it's really cute and it's a lot of fun. I think that that's what's going to make me unapologetically me is like unabashedly leaning into my village.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Unapologetically First Gen. Don't forget to share with your friends, like, follow, comment. We do appreciate your texts, though. And if you would like to be a guest, fill out the form that is in the show notes. Thanks again, and until next time.